Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ReQuest. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is Austin, the Day Ghost.
What's up?
And since this is another glorified comic vault, I figured I'd lead in with the comic vault music. Just before we started, Thomas Lowe was like, man, I sure missed the comic vault intro music. I was like, okay, well, I'll give it to you then. There it is. This show is, when we do comics, it's exactly like the comic vault, except somebody forced us to do this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I might even just start doing that on the regular Austin, where like I'll show obligatorily the ReQuest title, but you'll get the comic vault music. You know what it is? It's an amalgamation of those two shows.
That's true. And
yeah.
Just like if we do a requested rewind, it's a amalgam.
It is. That's how much we love Amalgam here at Geekvolution, is we're sandwiching all of our shows together.
Sure, why not?
Or maybe it would be more accurate to say that's how much we've had to talk about this stuff. That it's always in my mind. Well, obviously, I've still gotten some nostalgia for this stuff from when I was a kid. We've talked about that before. Austin doesn't have any connection to this stuff. I don't think you grew up with any of this at all, right?
No, not at all.
But I've now gotten you to read a fair bit of it.
Yeah, well, I've now read both big Marvel versus DC events, and now, what is this, like half of Amalgam, like just parts of Amalgam?
Yeah, well, when you say both, yeah, this isn't even half. This is probably a quarter of it.
Oh, okay.
Of what we're doing tonight, yeah, and I'll break that down here in a minute and talk about how much I've actually talked about this before and why we're doing specifically these tonight. But yeah, when you say both, you did the DC versus Marvel like original miniseries with me. Well, you read it for background for the other two miniseries, so we touched on it a little bit because I had reviewed it before, but we also reviewed All Access and Unlimited Access.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but this was like a year and a half ago, so I don't expect you to remember much of that. And I actually went back and re-listened to a little bit of our video on that just to kind of refresh myself a little bit, but we did like 2 hours on that, so I only listened to a fraction of it, but
yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah, no kidding. I completely forgot those other two existed.
Yeah, that's what was requested. Well,
yeah.
Was that a request, or did I just on a whim decide to finally do those? I can't even remember.
I think that's requested.
I'm not sure why I would have done them both like that.
I think we I don't know. But I feel like we did the Prez one maybe not as a request, but I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that was also a request.
Yeah, that could be. It's been so long.
Yeah, when he says the Perez one, that's the Justice League X-Men crossover. X-Men?
Justice League Avengers.
Yeah. And we talked a lot in the previous kind of epic podcast on the All Access stuff about how much better written that was and how much more it took advantage of these ideas. And you talked a lot about the classic costumes versus the kind of dated 90s stuff that we're stuck with here just because of when in the world it was. And like I said, just all of the kind of like good ideas he had in mixing those characters and actually getting some mileage out of that as an actual story and an idea, not just a gimmick, which is more of what this tends to be. Although there's kind of little diamonds in the rough here and there, and some kind of somewhat inspired notions or just really clever stuff in crossing things over. If only we had a little bit more time and real estate to play with them.
Yeah, for sure. Instead of Amalgam, they should have called it Corporate Slop Comics.
Just rolls off the tongue. I just like the idea that's what the big two combined call each other call itself for a while.
Yeah, they merged together. They're like, okay.
Would you call it Corporate Slop? SS Jerry said, yeah, I also requested both Access minis. I guess we did that just because they were only 4, so like it was short enough. We thought we could go ahead and knock them both out.
That makes sense. But then, yeah, because I think that's exactly what it was.
Well, I was about to say enough of our reviewing history, but now I have to give you just a tad more reviewing history to catch everybody up to speed about, again, why these issues tonight. We are going to talk about these in the order they came out, but with pieces missing, because I started a series several years ago now, 7 or 8 years ago, where I was going through these issue by issue on shorter vaults. These days, everything I do is live, and we usually broadcast for at least an hour, so the shorter, like 15-minute vaults on one issue don't happen as much. I was trying to do Not Spawn Year last year, and I've kicked around at some point trying to bring that back, so I might do the short form thing on single issues again at some point, but lately, at least these days, it's all been, I'm not going to talk about one issue because I'm going to broadcast for at least an hour. So anyway, I was going through at that time, in kind of no particular order, the issues that I owned. And I wasn't talking about anything that I didn't have. I wasn't trying to seek them out digitally. So I kind of cherry picked and jumped around a lot. And I had no idea exactly how many of these I covered, or even just how many there were, Austin. And the request that SS Jerry gave us this time, because he seems desperate for this quote-unquote project to finally get completed, was, and thanks to him, we've done a lot more of it now, but he wanted us, and I'm glad that we went back and revisited the original event again, but he said, why don't you do a ReQuest and tackle the rest of them? And I thought, oh yeah, that's probably, the right number for a stream. It turned out I had 15 left. And so we're going to do half of that today, and that's why I titled this as a part 1, and then sometime in the not-too-distant future, we'll come back and do a part 2, and we'll just do that as a vault. I'm not going to wait for a request on that. We'll just finally get them knocked out. We've got 7 more left. We might as well go ahead and do them, and then you'll have heard, if you care about this stuff, my voice saying something about each issue that has to do with Amalgam. So the ones we're doing tonight are, some of them kind of odd to talk about together without the other stuff in the middle, not because they necessarily inform each other too much or you're missing story points or anything, because a lot of these are one-shots that feel like they would set up an ongoing that doesn't happen. They're kind of like little TV pilots, number ones of things, or sometimes they kind of feel like they're just in the middle of stuff and then just catching you up for, an ostensible series that doesn't exist. Although most of these are like, finally, this character is getting their own book. When you read the fake letters pages, those were fun to read for a while, and then after a bit I realized that so many of the fake letters were just going to be, finally, this guy's getting his own book. I can't believe I've had to wait this long for this to happen. And I'm like, okay, we're kind of repeating ourselves on these letters at this point. Like, I know none of this is real anyway. So you have to go a little bit farther to keep my attention on reading gimmicky fake crap. But I digress. So I mention all of that to say that some of our interest and feelings about these might be clouded a little bit by the ones we read all together, and without some of the, in my opinion, better ones in between, because I did already review, I think, some of the better of these. So we're not going to talk about Dark Claw tonight, which I thought was one of the better of them. We're not going to talk about Dr. Strange Fate, which would have been in the middle of all of this, although he comes up here and there in a couple of these. But this set we're doing tonight of 8, so we're doing 8 tonight and 7 next time we come back and do this, is real X-Men centric. It's like half of these are mutant things. And so it's a lot of teams of characters amalgamated between DC and Marvel that are, some of them really generic and hard to remember and not all that interesting in my mind and really hard to keep everybody straight. So, like, some of them are better than others. Some of the characters are more fun and cooler crosses than others, but a lot of it, my eyes kind of glaze over and the books kind of start to meld together a little bit. And I went back and I kind of refreshed myself on a few of these. I read all this between yesterday and today, and some of it I felt like I needed to go back and even skim again. And I was still lost in with some of the X books, just kind of my eyes glazing over a little bit, going, "Oh yeah, this is what '90s X-Men was like." Like it's kind of the worst to me of what a lot of the X books read like then, where it's a lot of just like muscular and like overly sexy chicks kind of standing around talking about stuff that's kind of boring and then there's some not super inspired fights and then it's over. It's real gratuitous, and that's what
Yeah.
that period was like.
Yeah, no, and I'll admit here to more so skimming the Magneto issue because I thought that one was the worst of the bunch and it was really painful to get through.
I
So I found
I don't
myself
even agree with that.
interesting.
It's
Okay.
definitely not the best of the bunch, but I thought a couple of the other. I thought X Patrol was way more boring than the Magneto one.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's a
I
little bit better when you get in the back half and you get Doctor Doomsday, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to all of that because that stuff
no,
was
I
kind of fun.
yeah, for sure. I thought the Magneto one to me was like reading Youngbloods, and I was like,
It looks like that.
let's get out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair enough. So how should we start? Should we go issue to issue, or how do you want to play it?
Yeah, that's probably the right way to go. Just because we'll have to sit here and look at this Assassin's cover for half an hour, and people are already kind of making fun of that. Somebody was like, "I hope the video doesn't get taken down for that cover."
I mean, it's gonna get worse once you start flipping through
It's absolutely gonna get worse. Yeah, it was just.
This is, if in case
It
you
was a
don't know,
different
this
time,
is the
folks.
90s.
Yeah, it was a different time. Well, before we get into these, why don't you just, Austin, because I've been talking a long time, why don't you just
Yeah.
give us kind of your overall impression of, and we're going to have to rehash and backtrack just a little bit in talking about this, but you've only discussed with me this in more long form, like the mini series, where you get like a full story. This is your first foray into these kind of little sample issues of what maybe a larger series in this universe could be. I just want you to talk a little bit about how you feel about how the world building for this world is handled with these, and if like any of them really grabbed you or anything.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, this reminded me a lot of when we did the Stanley Just Imagine series, where it was kind of a lot of just kind of like setting up stories, and a lot of them were just kind of nothing to me. I actually, this might be a hot take, I might like that a little bit more overall than this, but part of that I think is just taste at the end of the day. Like, this is one of my least favorite periods of comics, is the 90s, and it's very like early Image 90s, like a lot of that kind of Liefeldian uh art and stuff like that that I really don't like in comics. But
Well, what's sad is we're just a few years before we start to get out of some of that, and the art
yeah,
gets better, and some of the
exactly.
storytelling is handled in a little bit more of a sophisticated way. And I think you made the argument in our previous Amalgam discussion that this was kind of 10 years too late, that if we'd done it in the mid 80s it would have been a little bit more classic with the iconic costumes and ideas and stuff. And in its way, it's also 10 years too early. I think if you did it in 85, it's better. And I think if you do it in 2005, it's better.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But yeah, a lot of it for me was just kind of nothing, and then there was the Magneto issue, which I thought was really bad, and the Bullets and Bracelets issue, which I thought was kind of like you said, was the diamond in the rough, or diamond in the haystack, I guess.
Yeah.
Where I thought that issue, like, I don't know if it would be like an amazing issue just if it was the only thing that existed, or if it's a lot better within this overall package. But I thought that issue was pretty good. It kind of drags in the middle a little bit, but the beginning and then the end really pick up. And then there was at least two issues that I thought were a little bit better than just kind of nothing. Like, okay. and that is very much my experience with Amalgam so far.
Well, like I said, I don't think we're looking at their best work here necessarily. Hopefully,
No,
when
fair
we
enough.
when we do the second half, there'll be some better stuff in there. I haven't read the second Spider Boy, but I remember liking the first one. Okay, like it's real goofy, but there's fun stuff in it.
Hmm. Well, yeah, and I think the appeal is definitely, um, that it's not really like heavy on storytelling. Like it's just kind of like let's get in and out and have fun adventure stuff for when it works. And then there's a couple issues like you said with the Doom Patrol one that kind of drag from being a lot of just explaining things and having to lay down the world. The last issue we did tonight has that issue quite a bit, um, where it feels like it takes forever to build this team.
Yeah, in some ways, that was my least favorite actually.
Oh, okay.
And that was even with some characters that we know now and that I've liked okay, and I still just had a hard time caring.
Hmm.
I also didn't remember very much from the other JLX book. That doesn't help either, because I reviewed that years ago. And then it's Mr. X again, but with an almost completely different team.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't sure if it was because some of this stuff it seems like it has pre-established continuity, like we're pretending we're jumping into this world.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really sure with that if that was the case because I assumed it was the first issue of this.
It gets complicated, right? So some of it is that way, where we're pretending like there's a bunch of back matter and like certain characters and teams had like hundreds of issues before relaunches, or they have new teams or new team ups and things like that. And others of them, so you have a 1996 batch and a 1997 batch. And when you get into the 97 batch, there are a few characters and teams that come back and get a second one that kind of, instead of being a real second issue, are instead like a new status quo, as if that had a whole series and now it's relaunching again.
It's almost like your X-Men, like original X-Men versus Uncanny, or not all new X-Men. Sorry, was what it was called when Claremont relaunched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like an Amazing Spider-Man to a Spectacular or a Web of, or
Oh, sure.
something like that, where we come back and we relaunch it, even if the other book was still going or something. Or what we did with Darkclaw is we treated it, and that was one of the more creative ones, I thought. You've got I can't remember the names now. You've got the first Darkclaw, and then one of them is Legends of Darkclaw, and the second one did it all in the Batman animated series visual style, and treated it like it was and I talked about this on Not Spawn Year, treated it like it was a comic continuation of a TV show. And that was a cool idea.
That is a pretty cool idea.
I could have used more of that kind of stuff with this.
Hmm.
Because there is
No,
a lot of satire through this, and just kind of references to where we are in comics right now with the good and the bad, particularly when you look at letters pages, where a lot of the fake letters, I don't know if you read any of that, but a lot of the fake letters would come out and be like, okay, I'll read this, but only if it doesn't have 14 variant covers. I'm like, okay, that's fun. And they would make fun of like gratuitous violence and like retconning in history and not keeping the continuity straight, and all the things that comic fans are complaining about in comics right then. So it's really self-aware, and it kind of almost makes the gimmick of the whole thing more palatable, because they know how obnoxiously commercial this is, and they're kind of poking fun at themselves, both of the companies, at the same time with that. And so there are places where it doesn't work, and it's like overly gimmicky and sappy and goofy, and then I go, okay, but how much of that is on purpose too? Like how much of this is supposed to be like actual decent art, and how much of it is the whole thing's a joke. The whole thing is we're just kind of poking fun at ourselves. And I needed more of a real story in the mini series, where it feels like we're supposed to be more invested in it taking itself more seriously. And some of these I'm a little bit more okay with proof of concept, Saturday morning cartoon, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's also one in I think the Super Soldier issue where they complain about how gimmicky Death of Super Soldier was.
Yeah, and that's fun. There's also that whole thing is weird too, though, because in the same letters pages, we pretend like nobody's seen that character in 50 years and he's obscure and nobody cares about him. So I don't really understand when the death of thing happened.
It happened back in the 30s, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, maybe I missed something with that, but I thought I read that. And then how did you feel about if you noticed any of it? Some of the odd like inconsistencies where it just doesn't feel like all the writers really have their ducks in a row and creating a whole world out of this.
Yeah, I thought it was really strange. It was just kind of hard to tell, like, how much it was supposed to be connected or how much it's not. Uh, because, like I said, there is just kind of weird things. Like you have Jimmy Urich here, and then in the next issue we have Jimmy Olsen, and there's a lot of weird things like that. Or like you'll have supporting characters who don't seem to be amalgamed, and a lot of those inconsistencies were just kind of strange.
Well, and it's hard to say how much of it again is intentional or if it's easy to cop out and go. We'll see. Like we were having continuity issues with the big two right then, so you can, dismiss them all like it's satire. They're doing it on purpose. Like some of it with that, it doesn't read that way so much as just we didn't actually get together and decide what all the characters were going to be and specifically what all the history was going to be. Like, it seems like there is, with the whole Jimmy Olsen thing, because I had that too at first, and then I realized the sheer number of characters that we amalgamate more than once with other characters. That actually happens a ton, and even with other things that you haven't read yet. So, like, Professor X is in two places. Bruce Wayne and like Batman as a character is in two places. Like you have Bruce Wayne, Agent of Shield, but you also have Logan, who is Darkclaw, who is part Batman also.
And we have a Wonder Woman and a Diana Prince. Like they are kind of splitting off.
There's a ton of that, and I think the James Olsen that we meet in the Super Soldier issue is supposed to be an amalgamation with somebody else.
Oh, it's probably.
I'll look that up.
It's
but
probably Bucky because Bucky's first.
that's right.
James.
It is in fact Bucky. Yep.
I think it's because James is like Jimmy and James are the same name, just like a different short form.
So they thought that was kind of clever and cute. But like there are no.
And I was like, oh, it's just Jimmy Olsen. But that's true.
The whole thing is clearly just a big giant conceit and gimmick in order to put the universes really together. But at the same time, I want it to be more creative and clever about it and to have actual rules. And that's maybe asking for a little bit too much, except we did 3 miniseries about how the universes come together, come back apart, keep mixing. And there's kind of at least an attempt at an explanation of how the rules work, and the thing with Access where there's a guy that exists to keep the universes together and all of that. So riddle me this, and I'm saying that as we're looking at the Riddler mix with Kingpin here with the big question. What's that?
Said Riddlepin.
Riddle me this, Austin. Don't you feel like you could have just not made a big deal out of how exactly this whole thing comes together, and then you could mix it any way you want to? Like, if you're gonna actually have a story about it, I kind of want there to be rules for it. That's always been my frustration with this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It doesn't really bother me, like while I'm reading it, because at the end of the day, this is all just like fan service.
Yeah, that's true. But it does kind of take me out when you have multiple amalgamations. I don't know why they did it that way, and there's no rhyme or reason to naming conventions or anything.
Well, I think it just depends on like how you're coming into it too. Like I have no real interest in Marvel and DC crossing over or in like the amalgam ideas. So like some of that stuff doesn't really bother me. Like at the end of the day, but like for people who are into that idea, I can see why that's an issue.
Well, and some of it for me isn't just like my interest in this as an idea so much as just basic storytelling stuff that like
Yeah.
I have a standard depending on what kind of story you're telling that I like to see met, and that's the thing where I'm like, well, but you kind of you may be wasting my time a little bit. You asked me to read a whole story about how this works, and then there are no rules. I don't love that in general.
Well, I guess what I mean by that is like I think by the premise of that, like it's already dipping below that kind of storytelling because it's just
Yeah.
here's this fan stuff that you know what I mean, like that kind of a
Well,
thing.
it's that same crossover thing, and I've talked about this before with Amalgam, but it's that same crossover thing I'm always complaining about, right? Where I don't, if the whole thing is a conceit and just like a fun novelty, don't waste pages and pages of dialogue explaining how the universes cross. Just sandwich them together. Like, let it be a conceit that can be explained in a single sentence, and then just go.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. I mean, that's a ton of crossover issues.
And this does that on a grand scale. Now, we've complained about all of this before, but it comes up again just because of, like I said, inconsistencies. And it's not just with... Oh, and you know, Rogue's another one, too. Where Rogue is split off twice, which I did not know about until we read the JLX thing today.
Yeah, who is Rogue split off with?
Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking of Jubilee. Maybe she's not. No, Jubilee's with Robin. For a minute in my head, it was... No, I guess she's not split off once. I guess that's just... And I didn't even know who she was mixed with. I have to look that up.
Rogue? I wasn't sure. I wondered for a second if it was Black Canary, but then I think she said something that was like, oh, okay, no, it's someone else. But I wasn't sure who it was.
I will find this. I will find it. Rogue...
I will find it.
Were you doing like a weird robot version of Zod? Like,
oh no, that's how he sounds in that movie.
That's how he
says it the third time.
Maybe with a little bit more gusto than you had there.
Yeah, like maybe like 1% more. Yeah, and Wonder Woman. I don't know. I guess we already said that she's one of the characters that split off twice.
Sorry, I'm looking for this.
No, it's okay.
Well, anyway, I'll look it up when we get there, when we actually talk about that issue. But real quick, before we get into these,
Yes.
the actual individual issues, which we're not going to spend a ton of time on each of them. We'll just kind of hit the major characters and the basic premise and all of that. But I wanted to mention that when I was talking about inconsistencies, I meant kind of more just universe building things. Some of it is in letters pages, some of it is in the stories proper. So in letters pages, we'll bring up events and things that I wish it was a little bit more like clever and thought out if we're gonna have those, because it feels like separate writers making up background that aren't all talking to each other, and so like the rules of improv get broken. Like, you've got a mention of an Age of Doomsday, and then later you have a mention of Age of Apocalypse but spelled like the planet, and I'm like, okay, did we do two events called Age of something, or did you guys not realize that one of you was gonna say that? Things like that.
One of them was just predicting Age of Ultron.
Oh, yeah, that's what was happening. So
I mean,
they get a pass
predicted
because
that
it's two
Maxwell
companies.
Lord would be a villain.
I thought it was really funny that they flipped it. It was Lord Maxwell. That kind of made me laugh.
Well, I was like, did they just not, like, who's he amalgamed with? He's just Lord Maxwell.
But the weirdest one is that for several different X books, we have mutants. And then when you get to the JLX book, they get rechristened to Meta-Mutant.
Yes.
Why wasn't it that all along?
Because it's also different in the Jonah Hex one, but that makes sense because it's the Old West, and there's a part where they're like, in the future they will be known as mutants.
That's what I was going to say. Is it's not different than they have a different name back then, and then we're told later they'll be called mutants. That's all consistent.
Like it only has a different name because it's a different time.
But here it's just they talk about it like they've always talked about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird, and we're sandwiching so many terms together between DC and Marvel. It actually would have made sense for them to have been called Meta-Mutants all along, as silly as that sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. No, I wondered about that too.
It should have always been that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one weird thing we do is in the letters pages we'll also amalgamate artists and writers' names.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're doing that. Like you blend DC and Marvel, and I like this fun idea that the real world has also blended. Where like all along we've had amalgam, and so it affects. It's this meta thing. It's a meta mutant thing, Austin, where it affects the real world as well. But a lot of those writers and artists work for both companies. Wouldn't they have the same names? And then what's weird is it's not like we change anybody's names that are on the books. So, like, the real people, like Peter Milligan is here. It's not like suddenly we give him a different name amalgamated with somebody else, which means if you were going to actually be, and I'm overthinking this, but if you were actually going to be consistent with it, then you'd have the ones that actually worked on this, like Dave Gibbons, would have to always be Dave Gibbons. But then, what was it like? Did we do like Frank O'Neill or something?
Something like that. There's something Simon and Schuster. I think Simon and Schuster. I think it's like Jack Schuster and.
I'll find it because it's in
something. Because I think they combined.
It's in Assassins. Yeah, it's look, it's Frank O'Neill, and it's J.M. Wolfman.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is in Super Soldier. They combine the creators of Superman and the creators of Captain America.
I missed that.
I think.
Also, I hate that the name of this letters page got stolen for this and probably was never used again, because Last Rites is really good.
That's probably used somewhere else.
I hope so.
Shocked.
It's too good.
Be shocked. But yeah, so you either want like the Treehouse of Horror naming convention thing, but with amalgam, or would you want it to be like you have 2 writers, 2 artists, 2 inkers, 2 letterers, and then we combine their names for the credits?
Yeah, just go nuts with it. Just be absolutely insane. Dan Schneider put out a $2 super chat and says Kingpin should be combined with Lex, not Riddler, and he's really on about it. Like, he has 3 comments about how stupid that is and how it should be Fisk and Lex Luthor.
It depends, I guess, because they're also inconsistent about which characters should be amalgamed. So, like, if you're looking for characters that are similar, I guess, then yes.
Sometimes they do that, and sometimes it feels like they rolled a couple of D20s and just combined them together.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That's an inconsistency that I guess I'm sometimes okay with, because it is fun when they're really random. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes that's really fun. It kind of just depends on how they do it.
Yeah, well, and then other times it's, in relation to things, so like Joker and Sabretooth are combined because Batman and Joker are, instead of, say, Joker and, like, Green Goblin or Joker and Carnage.
And then they become the Hyena. I don't really know how that happens, but okay. Yeah, and then you'll get the really obvious ones where it's like, well, you can only mix Darkseid and Thanos. What are we going to call him? Thanos-side? Okay. What does that even mean?
They should just name him Dark Thanos.
Yeah, that would be much better. I actually like what they do with Thanos-side, but it's such a silly name.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's also some of the charm of this, is just how dumb it gets. Like, I would much prefer just really, really stupid than, like, dull and unmemorable.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the type of stuff you want from this, right? It's just kind of balls to the walls, if you will.
Well, and if they can get, like, in the Super Soldier issue, where it's quite a bit more sober and kind of a more pure, like, sense of this initial concept, where it's just, let's full-on blend exactly the 2 properties. It's everything you would expect. It's like Superman's arch nemesis blended with Captain America's arch nemesis, and it's their backgrounds exactly 50-50. If you could do that and play it straight and be pretty serious with it, but have a somewhat inspired story, that's also cool. It's just, it was all really predictable, and it wasn't real inspired to me, but like it's not bad. It's just even over that I would almost rather really dumb and nuts, and okay, I didn't expect you to blend those two characters together. Like if the whole thing was done in that spirit, like if the whole thing was done in the same spirit as the Justice League Avengers crossover we talked about, that could be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I also just remembered one of the weird inconsistencies. I don't know if you saw this in one of the letters pages, but Howard the Duck is Howard Lobo the Duck.
And then there's Howard something else.
It was Howard the Mixel. It was like Mixelplex.
Yeah, it was Mixelplex, and it was spelled wrong.
I was like, what does that even mean?
What does it mean? There's not a Mixelplex is not a mantle, okay? Mixelplex is a guy. It would have to be like Howard the fifth dimensional being or something.
Well, I just want to see, like, is there art of Howard the Mixelplex? Like,
no. And what's weird is Howard or Lobo the Duck is then in. I remember this now that you bring that up. In that letters page, Lobo the Duck is the very next issue that's about to come out, and they advertise it underneath that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, why did they do that? But again, there's precedent for it because they keep splitting off characters and doing them twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That's a thing I wish they didn't do, though.
Yeah, you want it to be a little bit more consistent where you only get one?
Well, there are plenty of characters, Austin.
Mm-hmm. You would think.
And it's just again, I don't mean to overthink it, but when the universes blend, why does that happen? Like, it just doesn't really make a great deal of sense, right? I get that it's a conceit in the first place, but like, I don't know. You have this big reveal at the end of Doctor Strange Fate, which I have reviewed and we're not talking about tonight, that it's a cross. So you knew it was a cross between Doctor Fate and Doctor Strange, but then at the end you find out that it was actually a 3-man cross, and he takes his helmet off and it's Professor X. And I think that really cool moment is really undercut by the fact that there's another Xavier.
That is strange. Well, I mean, I guess that's just the actual Xavier, and this is a Skrull.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but it still exists because Xavier is a thing, and it makes the X-Men, and it does all of that. Bob the Hun, shouldn't Mixoplick be combined with Impossible Man? He's Marvel's version. Yeah, that's good. Is there another, like, impish type character that it would make sense to mix him with? DC has more of those.
Pip the Troll. Pip the Mixelplex.
Yeah, I wonder who Ambush Bug blended with. Because I realize that's also DC, yeah. But I wonder who at Marvel that blended with.
Bug, the character from Guardians. So he's just Ambush Bug.
Well, Austin, talk a little bit about Assassins real quick. And you don't have to do a full breakdown of story or anything, but just like who are the characters and what's the situation.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to break down. It's just a amalgam of Catwoman and Elektra, and Deathstroke and Daredevil want to take out Kingpin Riddler, and they're just climbing his tower. It's very Dread in that way, I guess.
And the Elektra character has to die because it's Elektra.
Well, no, because Elektra's the Catwoman one, so she's like they flip it.
Oh, you're right, they do flip it.
It's the Daredevil one that dies.
Yeah, so we kill one, and then they make a big deal out of she's probably coming back, which is really funny because it's their first issue, but the whole premise of the book is these two characters finally coming together. So that means that they would
really were gimmicky, weren't they? She's dying one issue, coming back in the next.
Yeah, she would have to come back in the very next issue.
Maybe in this series, like that's part of the joke, is she dies every issue, and it's like, how will she die in this issue?
No, you're right though. I wasn't thinking about that right. It was so shocking. They really take you for a loop there, Austin. That
they're gonna take you for a ride.
They're gonna take you for a ride. Yeah, so you've got your Daredevil character who is blind but loses an eye after she's blinded. She basically comes out and says, "Yeah, it wasn't really that big of a deal that I lost an eye. I already couldn't see. Who cares?" That was
No,
really funny.
exactly. No, it's like taking a ladder from a paraplegic. Like, what are they gonna do?
The really distracting thing to me about this issue, and none of the others do this, at least not to the degree this one does, is there are constantly cutesy usages in dialogue and in narration boxes of the real names of things that we're not using with the crossovers. So, like, you have to get the word Daredevil in there, and you have to get Kingpin in there, and we do it with everything.
I don't know if you had this, Cap, but the Daredevil one's very early MCU. Like, do you remember like early MCU when it would be like, we're not gonna say War Machine, but there's gonna be a part where Iron Man's like, "You want to be a War
Want to
Machine?"
be the War Machine? Yeah.
It's very that.
There's a lot.
Where-
Well, the Kingpin usage was also that way, and
Yeah,
we do
no,
it with Deadshot.
Mhm.
Is it
Yep.
Deadshot? And we do it with Bullseye too.
It's
because
Deadshot and Bullseye. He's like, that's the amalgam.
yeah, and they both come up right before that character dies.
When he dies, like opening page too, and it's like,
Yeah, and we should also talk about the fact that this is the one unprecedented thing they do here that I don't think they do anywhere else is we sometimes with Amalgam will cross a male character and a female character, and then one of the sexes has to win out. But here, you combined two male characters and you got a female character. I don't know how that works, but
two negatives make a positive.
we took Catwoman and we took Deadshot, or no, Deathstroke.
Yeah.
And we end up with Cat's Eye. Not Cat's Eye.
No, Dare.
We end up with Dare. God, we're only talking about one issue right now, and I can't keep any of this straight.
Should have been called Darestroke.
Yeah, why did we get
Or Death Devil?
Yeah, why did we take one word out of a two-word name and just make that the name of an amalgamated character? I don't know. I don't understand that. And then there's an explanation where it's like, oh, she's called Dare because all the things that she dares to do and the things nobody dares to do to her. And I'm like, that's a little lame, especially because she still has the devil horns.
Yeah, well, because Riddler Kingpin's like, oh, you're a real daredevil, aren't you? And he just puts horns on her.
Thomas Solo says Speed Demons is an actual Amalgam issue, right? Yeah, and that's one I think I did review already.
Oh, okay. That's what, Flash and Quicksilver, I'm guessing?
Or is it Ghost Rider?
Oh, no, that would make more sense.
Speed Demon. I think it's Ghost Rider.
Yeah. See, I think Ghost Rider should have been combined with Jonah Hex, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, or honestly, I would have maybe done it with Lobo.
Yeah. I could have seen that too.
See, if they ever reboot this, I want to be in charge of it. Because I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I think I would have way cooler ideas of what to cross. When I was growing up, some of this bugged me to no end, where I was like, no, that's who it should have been, obviously. I've talked about this before. I always wanted Lex Luthor and the Lex-Men. It's right there. Like, how did we not do that?
Well, especially because that's clearly the only reason they did the Jonah Hex one. Is because it rhymes.
Because it rhymes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, because I don't think that one's terrible.
It's okay. That's probably the third best for me out of these.
Well, let's go ahead and move on, shall we? So
Yes.
with Super Soldier. Oh, and we didn't talk about the creators on that last one. Do you remember right off? So I don't have to fly all the way back.
I don't, and the way I read it, I don't know if it's just like in the issue or what, but it didn't always have creator credits.
They all have them somewhere. So sometimes they're at the beginning, sometimes they're at the end.
Oh, that's probably why I missed it then, because I was always looking for it at the beginning.
Yeah, they're inconsistent about that. They're in different places.
Okay.
And that's a thing that we do even to this day with both companies. Is sometimes you get it up front, sometimes it's a few pages in, sometimes it's the very last page.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't remember who did this issue. I remember who did the next one, but not this one.
Yeah, well, and the next one is arguably probably like the biggest, just popularity-wise, like powerhouse team, where like they're both guys you've heard of and both guys that were pretty big right then.
Yeah, actually got Wade and Gibbons, probably.
Wade and Gibbons, yeah.
The next one, I guess, would be Ostrander, but I can't remember who did the art for that. So as a team, like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember either. And there's guys that I recognize, but were not necessarily ever big A-list writers.
Yeah, like you get Larry Hama. I don't know if he would technically be considered like an A-lister, but
No, I
Larry
mean,
Hama's always great.
yeah, he's kind of a bigger deal than somebody like Peter Milligan, who's
Yeah.
just a
Oh,
really good kind of. I don't even want to say workhorse writer. I like his style. I just don't think that he is like known as much as even a Larry Hama probably.
mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking because like I know Larry Hama more so for like GI Joe, so it's like
Oh sure, did he not do some Transformers? Maybe not.
maybe I don't think so. And he does some Wolverine.
That's not a property I know, but for some reason
I mean, I haven't read all of
I thought
Marvel's
maybe he had done
Transformers,
that.
but maybe at some point. He's still doing his GI Joe. It's on like issue like 310 or something now.
So we did talk about this. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because every time it goes to the well, I mean, I guess it probably starts just with IDW, but IDW picked it up where it left off, and now Skybound are too.
Okay, interesting.
No, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've not read a ton of Transformers. I did do a review at one point with Eric on Last Stand of the Wreckers, which is like the big thing everybody always talks about, and I liked that. But my thing with Transformers, just not to get off the beaten path, but I'll just say this real quick. My thing with Transformers has always been, I just don't think it translates great to this medium. Like, there's no expression in the faces, and it being a property that I'm not as familiar with as some other things, I have to work really hard to remember what character I'm looking at when you're just doing headshots, because they all have the same face. So it's hard to look at to me.
Yeah, one day on our comic show, I will bring on Skybound Transformers, the first arc, and I'm very excited to show you that.
I was gonna say you should. I mean, I'm not disinterested in reading more.
No, I just think you'll really like it.
Yeah,
That's
it'd be
why.
great. No, I'm just saying I was actually gonna invite you to please do that at some point. I would like to read, especially from somebody that knows what the good stuff is and can maybe like prove me wrong with my trepidation about reading it in comics, because I'd much rather watch that material than read it. You know,
Absolutely.
like by definition, it's hard to pull off because it's about like characters that physically transform, and it's like between panels you can make that happen, but like how do you make that great? And
Yeah.
uh,
Well, and that's the guy who did the old woman Wonder Woman book we read, and it's very kinetic. The
oh
artwork.
wow, yeah, because that book's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the
But anyways,
best.
we should probably get back on.
We will. That's one of the best Old Man Who Ever books there is.
It's really good. Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway, we digress. So Super Soldier, I talked about a little bit already. Not a ton left to say about that. I don't think. It's Gibbons. His art is always consistently good. There are a few panels that are very very Watchmen, particularly the one with Jimmy Olsen and his or James Olsen and his like bloody messed up face, where that felt just like right out of Watchmen.
Yes, there's points right
There it is.
where he very much looks like an older Walter Kovacs.
He looks like Kovacs, yeah.
And sometimes Lex looks like Malik.
Yeah, Malik, absolutely.
Malik. That's it. Yeah. No, 100%.
That's all I have to say, though. Let's move on. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, yeah, this issue is standard, I guess. Like like with what you were saying with that kind of animated series, like that adaptation thing. I feel like this is the most like Saturday morning cartoon.
It reads, yeah, but it also reads like the most like an actual first issue of something. And that's the one big thing I'll give it, is some of these try to do too much story all at once, even if it doesn't feel like it's really telling much of a story, where it's just it's too many characters, it's too much baggage. It's like you'd want it over 6 issues, but we're trying to get it all out because we know we're never going to touch this material again. But then the conceit of it is it's a first issue. So I like that this actually lives up to that premise. The problem with it is more just in the material, where it reads like a homework assignment.
Yeah, which is really weird because Mark Waid goes on a lot about how he's like this amazing big Superman fan. But like, I don't know. I don't think it necessarily comes off in this, which to be fair, it's not just Superman. Like it is.
I feel like I can read some reverence for the character here. It's just it feels, like I said, very paint by number, very like plug in for
Exactly.
formula. Okay, well, if you were going like, it's very logical. It just isn't exciting. It doesn't do anything for me. It's like, okay, so you got to have enough Superman background with it. So we take alien DNA and we build from a ship that crash landed, and then we mix that with, or we create the super soldier formula, and then we give that to a Steve Rogers type, and then there's gonna be a stand-in for Kryptonite that's not from Krypton but is like the big doomsday weapon that their Lex Luthor, who is the Green Skull, because it's Lex Luthor and green, and I guess he injected himself with kryptonite, so it's green. That
Wouldn't that be
he's
symbolic?
that he's been building in order to win the war and all of that. And there's no surprises. Like, it's just, yeah, okay. I mean, like, it's logical.
Like everything Wade has ever done, he adds milk to his toast, basically.
Well, and I like Wade in general more than you do. I'm not gonna say that everything he does is great, and I haven't cared for any of his later stuff that I've read over the last 10 years or so. But like, I have liked a lot of his stuff, so I'm not just gonna dog on Wade. But I do feel like this is a okay number one, like a potential foundation where you're just giving the origin for a character and then you move on, and then you could maybe tell some cool stories. Like, it just feels like obligatory origin. It doesn't mean that there's not anything you could do with this guy afterwards.
No, I agree with that. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
And it does that better than a lot of these other things, is all I'm saying. Where it does feel like a true number one. I like that. I like that about it.
I think it's the next issue is the Bullets and Bracelets one, which is my favorite of these. Like, that's not a number one, but like, I think it works.
No, it's not, and it's paced better than a lot of these, and it gets a lot more done without losing you than a lot of these do. But this lives up to this premise the best, even if it wasn't the most fun to look at. So I do want to praise it for that. That, like, it feels like an assignment, and he probably gets like a 89%, like a B+ on the assignment if I'm grading it. But I don't know that I would be real excited about picking up number 2, even though it actually feels like a number 1.
No, exactly. I guess in that way, it's, I kind of made the corporate slop joke at the beginning.
Yeah.
I get, like, it's almost the most like that, because it's just, here's Superman and Captain America together. Like, it's not especially interesting, but there it is if you want to see that.
Thomas Lowe says K-bombs. Yeah, they're kryptonite. He's got to come up with a way to call it K, like green K, but it's not kryptonite. So they make a substance that they refer to as Kansas load. Okay, and that's where you get K, and so it's green K, which stands for Kansas load.
He should have just said, "I'm going to drop a Kansas load on you, Superman, super soldier."
It is weird that at no point does he say that. Absolutely. And then we have the Ultra Metallo, which is just a big robot that James Olsen claimed 50 years ago got beaten by Super Soldier, but it was a lie so that his name didn't get tarnished and people didn't panic.
And I have a question for you, because I wasn't sure offhand. Who is that a amalgam of?
I didn't know either. I'm looking it up right now, and this says it's an amalgamation with the original Sleeper. I don't know what that is.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's cool that it's like a deep pull then. I just wasn't sure, because I was like, is it like Ultron? Because it's like Ultra, but it's not anything like Ultron.
Oh, this makes sense, though. So just looking at Wiki, the first Sleeper is the name of a series of 5 destructible robots created by Red Skull.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
That's cool. And then the second Sleeper was apparently a symbiote.
Of course it was.
The
third one's probably a Deadpool.
The thing that is awkward about talking about this for me sometimes is I feel really vulnerable. I feel like a fake comic book fan because my weaknesses show real hard in the things that I'm not familiar with. And I'll especially have that when we get to Magneto and the Metal Men, the Metallic Men, because I know jack for anything about the Metal Men. So, like, I
know
don't
very
know.
little about X-Men and the Metal Men, so I am really in for it tonight.
I don't know any of the blends with those. I have no idea what I'm looking at. That just read like a regular Magneto story, except he's got an evil brother this time, and he makes robots. Like that's it. It didn't even feel like Amalgam.
Bloods.
Yeah, especially in the art. But did you have that too, where like that one didn't even feel like an Amalgam book to me? It felt like just a slightly altered Magneto story.
Just like an Elseworlds. Yeah, because the most I know about the Metal Men is that they exist.
Kind of like Challengers of the Unknown.
I've at least read stuff with them because they're in New Frontier.
Oh, okay.
I can't say that about Metal Men.
Because that's another one that I can't remember if I reviewed that one or not. But they did Challengers of the Fantastic, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna know half of that.
See, if we're doing this now, Cap, it would obviously be Challengers of the Galaxy, but then the Fantastic Four should 100% be the Fantastic Terrifics, where you merge the Terrifics and the FF.
Yeah, well, see, I always wanted Amalgam to go beyond just DC and Marvel so that you could make the Fantastic Four the Ninja Turtles. I just always thought that was the perfect mix.
Okay. I like the Fantastic Terrifics, though. I think that rolls off the tongue.
As well as some of the stuff in this. People are making fun of Kansas Load as sounding kind of dirty. It's not LOAD, it's LODE. It's a load. Amalgam Nation, it still sounds awful. I'm with you. Amalgam Nation, $2 super chat. Can you remind me of the villains in each, the X's? I don't feel like I should have to with that username. I feel like if you're going to call yourself Amalgam Nation, you should know this already.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here. This is your nation, man.
I don't know what he means when he says the X's.
I guess like the different X books, like Generation X. Oh no, because it's Hex.
But he
like
says,
the
"Remind
X
me of the
Patrol.
villains," and then he says the X's. Or is that two different questions? Or is you see what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm not sure.
But we'll break down the major stuff as we go. We're already at an hour, but we've only got the other 6 issues, so we'll get through these.
We're back slow tonight.
Yeah, man, this stream is gonna be a Kansas load.
Exactly.
Anyway, but like I said, art's pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the art's really good.
Like, he does a good job. Mail call. I mean, that's as generic as a letters page title gets.
It should have just been mail.
It's like dare,
Exactly, but maybe spelled MALE, so that it's at least not just the mail.
So Bullets and Bracelets was Austin's favorite. I don't think I can disagree that it's the best written and the most fun of these, and just has I don't know, gets most creative with these ideas. What was cool about it for me is I expected one thing and got something else entirely. Like, coming into this, I didn't even know if you would get any mystical or supernatural, not supernatural, but if you would get any like fantasy stuff, because yeah, you have Diana, but we also already have the Amazon Storm. So I thought maybe she was going to be just a human character without any powers. And I thought maybe it was going to be kind of like Assassins again, where instead of mercenaries, it's just street vigilantes that are going around killing bad guys. And it starts that way, and then it turns into a whole thing about new gods. And I didn't see that coming at all. And
Yeah,
it got real big and epic and fun.
No, what I liked about this issue is that it's the only one to me that felt like, oh, somebody came in and had a story they actually wanted to tell, and then they adapted it into this idea. And I thought that was really cool. This one kind of starts in like a Big Trouble in Little China place. Like if you're in the climax of that movie where they're going through the like ninja cave, or I guess right before the climax, and then all of a sudden they're in apocalypse. And then it becomes a whole thing with from the start they're already looking for their baby, but their baby ends up on Apocalypse. And then it turns out that Thanos side zapped their baby into the past so that their baby could be raised by him, and he was actually
It's a good villain plot. It's a pretty good villain plot. Yeah, it's like backwards Cable.
Yeah. Um, no, and I thought all of that was really cool. And in the moment, I was like, "Oh wow, we went to Apocalypse." And looking back on it, I shouldn't be that surprised. Like, he's clearly a big fan of that stuff. Like, they're a big part of his Suicide Squad run too. But it definitely takes like a left turn. And
Well, I'll say you have two big, if I may, you have two big biases here. I like when I was reading this, I missed the credit and I didn't even realize that it was Ostrander. So while I was looking at it, it was just a story. So you already have the Ostrander bias, and then you also have the Punisher bias.
to a degree, I mean, I like Larry Hama a lot, and I didn't think that issue was especially great. I think it's maybe my second favorite of them, but like, it's not like I saw Ostrander and I was like, okay, here we go. Like, I just thought the
Yeah.
story was really good, or
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Well,
really good for this material.
yeah, he didn't phone this in, and I think these are difficult to not treat as either assignments or kind of phone them in.
Yeah, no, exactly. My main thing is just a lot of these are phoned in, and he's the only one that kind of came in, and I felt like had an actual story they wanted to tell, and that really shined to me.
I do feel like the Hex one is also kind of that way. I just wasn't super impressed with the story.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I should say.
That's the only
And
place where
story.
I'd fight you a little bit, as I think that's a real story. It's fine, you know.
Well, and also, like I will say, this story, when we introduced Thanoside, I started to kind of be like, I'm kind of losing interest. And then when I got to the twist, I was like, oh, okay, no, this picked back up again. So it's not like I was with it the whole issue. There is a point where I start to dip, and then it wins me back.
Well, it's funny you say that because I actually really liked the Thanoside stuff. There's just real basic good 101 storytelling stuff happening here where like you're right, your protagonists have a clear goal, there's something they're after, you know what the motivation is. The bad guy has a worldview, you understand what his motivation is, and also his ideology is a really neat blend between Thanos and Darkseid. Like, he's straight up 50-50 those characters. And it's logical, like what Mark Waid did with Super Soldier, except it felt a little bit more inspired to me. His whole speech about human beings not naturally having any sense of order, and he has to create that, and that's why Apocalypse is the way it is, I thought was really quite good. And I like that in bringing Thanos to Darkseid, he ends up more humanized. Where he ends up with this like weird sense of honor that like when you blend those characters, all of a sudden you kind of get him more. Like, he's still awful, but he's not like a plank of wood like Darkseid often is, and he's not just like mustache twirling cartoon villain like Thanos sometimes is. I felt like Ostrander was trying to find a way to make him seem more complex in the few pages we get with him by blending them.
So this is a place where the bias comes in a little bit. Um, I had like a hard time seeing the blend just because he's written a lot like how he does write Darkseid when Ostrander does. So it just reminded me of Ostrander's Darkseid. But like there probably is more of that element because of Thanos, but his Darkseid is also very like honorable and
Oh,
well.
is he? Okay.
Yeah, there's like a whole thing in that where he tries to screw everyone over and they don't agree, and he's like, okay, well, I'll send you back to your home or whatever because I'm like an honorable guy. Like, I'm not gonna just enslave you.
Would his Darkseid have cared enough about his own child to want to get revenge over it being killed? That's a question. Because Thanos
That's the
would do
question.
that. I don't know if Darkseid would do that.
Yeah, that's more a question. That's probably, I guess, more of the Thanos influence.
I didn't buy this. Darkseid or Thanos side sees the Punisher riding around in the Orion jet thing, and he just thinks that it's his kid. Like, what? Okay.
But it's so much fun, Jim.
Nah, it was ridiculous.
No, it's completely crazy, and it made me question because he pulls it off of It's Mr. Miracle and someone else. I forget who, but he has the Orion thing. So I was like, what? Oh, I guess it's like a triple amalgam.
Let me look that up real quick.
Also, Big Titania's introduction's really funny, where she's just like, "I am Big Titania," and I'm like, "Yes, you are."
Yeah, she's massive. And then you turn the page, and I showed it a minute ago, but kind of some neat panel layouts. But then you've got, like kind of the big ass shots and all of that that you got that you're gonna do in this time period.
Like the big ass shots and the big ass shots.
Yeah. Yes.
Both.
Both.
Okay, I got
That's what happens.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm just talking about what I saw on the page, man.
No, I'm just making sure that I know exactly where we're at. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in this list on what the mix is with the Orion thing, because the problem is, well, and also the way this is broken down on Wiki is by first appearance, so maybe that character showed up in something else earlier. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know they give us a name and it's something free because
Scott Free.
Exactly, but I couldn't remember what the first name was.
No, this is it is Scott Free. Now that I'm looking at
it's
it,
Scott Free. Okay.
Yeah. Occasionally you'll get a character that's not amalgamated at all. So this just says an Amalgam universe version of Mr. Miracle.
That's a little strange, but
and then they just named him Scott Free. Yeah.
It's not like he's actually a character.
Nope. Not really.
Well, he's amalgamed with Orion.
He's yeah. And I thought the love story thing was kind of okay. I mean, like you said, it doesn't read like a real number one, because we introduce characters. I mean, I guess you could say it's all like recapping. If these were characters that you've had in books before, and then this is a new status quo for them.
Without the first act.
Yeah, so like they're a divorced couple with a kid that felt like they couldn't get along, and the kid is trying to get to the kid, is bringing them back together, and then they kind of fall in love again, and they do all that in one issue. I guess I could see a world where that happens, where you have like maybe 10 years of a couple that's broken up, and then when we give them their own book in the first issue, we bring them back together. You could see that happening.
Yeah, the only place where it's not really a number one for me is just the way it starts. That like we're starting in what feels like a climax, but obviously it's not really the climax. Like it kind of starts in Medus Res. So that was like the only thing that made it feel like that. Like I said, it's like an 80s action movie without the first act.
I guess I missed that she was... Oh, no, I just forgot about it. But yeah, she's also Elektra. So did we split Elektra twice, too?
Oh, she's also Elektra?
She's also Elektra, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure who she was on the Marvel side.
Isn't that weird?
That is strange. But she's the better of the Elektras.
What cracks me up about it is you get that page that goes down both of their backstories, and I wasn't sure if I was supposed to read one side first and the other side second, or if you're supposed to go back and forth. Like I couldn't tell, but they set them up next to each other, and hers feels like a blend of those two characters to some degree, and then you've got Frank Castle blended with Steve Trevor, and his background is just Frank Castle.
The only Steve Trevor to him is that he's blonde.
He's blonde. Well, and the fact that he was married to Diana, but yeah,
and that, yeah.
Yeah. Do you buy a world where Wonder Woman would be in love with somebody like the Punisher, or do you have to get Elektra in there before you buy that?
It helps that we kind of split Wonder Woman in two, where it's like some of that stuff that would keep her from the Punisher goes with Wonder Woman, Storm. So like that helps. Like this version of Wonder Woman slash maybe Elektra, yes.
Oh, you know what? I said that it reads like there's a blend with the Elektra thing, with the background. Actually, not really. It's kind of just the like Wonder Woman Themyscira background, and then she gets her bracelets with adamantium from Wakanda, and
And it's just straight up from Black Panther. Like it's not even an amalgam to Black Panther.
no, it's just
It's
Black
just Black
Panther.
Panther. He's just there.
I don't know who he's supposed to be. Oh no, he's Bronze Tiger in Black Panther.
Oh, okay.
He's not the. I'm looking at the list of characters. He's not the Black Panther. He's the Bronze Panther. I missed that. That's fun.
I wonder if that was an Ostrander idea. That's interesting. They maybe should have shown it more in his outfit, but
Yeah, because his outfit just looks like a regular
it's
Black
just
Panther
Black
suit.
Panther. Yeah.
Yeah. Bob the Hun, $5 super chat. Thanks for the support, man. He says Fantastic Four is supposedly a ripoff slash rehash of Challengers of the Unknown. Yeah, it is. Apparently, many stories are very similar, specifically FF1 with Mole Man, and even still, I think Austin's right that they should have blended, because I mean you have the same thing with Thanos and Darkseid.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Like-
And Man Thing and Man Bat.
And Man-Bat, yeah. Well, Man-Bat doesn't exist because of Man-Thing.
No, I was making a joke
Oh.
that you think it's gonna be Swamp Thing, but it's
Yeah,
not. That was like went the other way.
but see, I like that one because it's a blend that makes sense, but it's not the most obvious thing,
Mhm.
and the name's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Bat Thing's good. I just think it's funny that I'm getting ahead of myself. I just think it's funny that he like flies to the swamp when he's done doing stuff in the city. It's like, okay.
Gotta have Man Thing in there somewhere.
Well, Austin, talk about your favorite book that we've had here, Magneto and the Magnetic Men.
So this
Even
issue-
just this cover looks like Youngbloods.
I know. I just look at this and I want to die. I don't know how much I can tell you about the plot. Like I said, I skimmed this one more so than like fully going over it like the other issues because it was really really hard for me to get through. But yeah, we have the Metal Men, and we have Magneto, and they're gonna work together to fight Mr. Sinister, who's combined with someone.
Yeah, they do a whole Sentinel thing with him, but I wasn't actually sure who he was a mix with.
Yeah, I was a little confused about it because of that.
Sinistron. Oh, it's because it's a character I don't know. DC is Simon with a PS.
Oh, well, it's probably something to do with Metal Men, right? I mean, that's why we don't know.
Right. New Teen Titans he starts in. It's a George
okay.
Perez thing.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. We're learning things, folks. I'm not going to remember this tomorrow, but we're learning it right now.
Magneto and his Metal Men fight him, and then they win. And
Austin, I
I'm
didn't mind
thankful
this.
to move on.
I didn't mind this idea on paper.
Sure.
I just couldn't get into the characters really.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of classic sci-fi what man makes a man story with robots that are given sentience and self-awareness. On paper, it all works. Like I kind of like the idea that Magneto infuses the personalities or memories of like deceased mutants that used to work with him. If you skimmed it, I don't know if you even picked this part up, but deceased mutants that worked with him in the Brotherhood, and then
Yes.
the robots are trying to decide if they're self-aware or not, or if it's just memory engrams. That's some good classic sci-fi stuff. And then the bad guy is a full-on just I almost said cyborg, but like robot, but is given self-awareness, or at least sentience by his creator, who is Magneto's brother, and so they have these kind of like opposing methods that are both creating machines to fight each other on different sides, and his brother is jealous of the fact that he was born a mutant and has all these great powers, and he has to work really hard to live up to that in any way, and so in his jealousy he decides to create the Sentinels to go after mutants. So that was a cool like spin on the like hate them and fear them idea, where it's deeply personal for that character in the first place, and it's not even about the larger mutant question. It's just my brother got the better end of the stick and got the cool stuff from genetics, and I'm mad at him about that. So it becomes like a Cain and Abel thing. But what's weird is the brother is not in the book. Like that.
Yeah, he's only mentioned.
Mm-hmm. But I thought it was potentially on paper again cool, kind of spin on the Xavier Magneto thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But that's what I took from that book.
No, when you put it down like that, it's like that is an interesting idea. But when you read the issue, it's just kind of a bunch of characters show up and they punch a lot and they hit a lot and they use their crazy powers and they like quibble back and forth, and it's got like a lot of that just kind of like incomprehensible Liefeld writing for me, where I was like, I don't care, and none of this is followable.
Yeah,
because of that.
I have the same thing. It's just when occasionally Magneto would start going on a diatribe about what the book was really supposed to be about, I was like, I wish this was the crux of the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Because I liked him okay.
Mm-hmm. He just felt like Magneto. Like who is Magneto even supposed to be combined with?
Okay, so that's the whole kind of gag here, is that there's a character with the Metal Men called Will Magnus, so they went, okay, we've got two Magnuses between DC and Marvel, and so we'll make so we'll take the two of them and we'll make one bad and one good, and that's what they did.
I mean, if one's connected to the Metal Man and one is the Master of Magnet, that makes sense.
It makes sense. Master of Magnet. That's a whole other thing. But I appreciate any reference whatsoever to Captain Invincible.
Captain Invincible? Oh, that's not even what I was quoting.
Oh, I thought that's where you're going to.
No, it's the X-Men arcade game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, because Captain Invincible is the Man of Magnet.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. That's one of his many powers, along with his amazing computer brain. Anyway, so that's that. And look out, because next time we do Amalgam, you're going to have to read a follow-up to this.
No.
Yeah, it comes back.
Oh, God. Well, hopefully it's very different.
It comes back. We get... And I don't think I've done the other Super Soldier, so we'll have to do that too. Or maybe I have, I'm not sure. But yeah, there was Super Soldier Man of War, and then Exciting X Patrol. That comes back. Why does that come back? Okay. Magnetic Men featuring Magneto.
Well, you have the North and South magnetic poles.
Okay, but there is, and I bet he'll just have a cameo. There is one cool sounding Amalgam in that issue that I'm curious to see what he looks like, which is Detective Dinosaur.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Where they take Devil Dinosaur with Detective Chimp.
Mm-hmm.
You can't argue with that.
You can never argue with a dinosaur.
Mixed with a chimp? Yeah, you can't argue with that. It's too good.
Oh, I hope it's a T-Rex with chimp arms.
I hope it is too.
It's probably just a T-Rex with like a detective hat, but we can dream.
I wish that was the whole thing. I wish it was like Planet of the Dinosaur Apes. I'd read that all day long, folks. Anyway, okay, moving right along.
Like some sort of Jurassic ape world.
So you're gonna have to help me with X Patrol because this was the one I had a hard time not just skimming. Like I found some things that were like at least in the initial idea in the background pretty interesting with Magneto book. This I'm struggling to even remember what happens until you get to the bad guy.
This is just very nothing. It's just here's the team, and then they go out and then they fight the bad guy.
Yeah, and
That's kind of it.
I also had that problem of like with the Metal Men stuff with just characters that I didn't immediately recognize. So you've got Janet Van Dyne. I forget who she's even blended with.
She's blended with Elastigirl from the Doom Patrol.
Is that her name?
Yeah. No, because I was like, oh, Elastigirl is just a Doom Patrol character. Like,
wait, is her name actually Elastigirl?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. So that means that Incredibles didn't know that was a pre-existing name.
Or they stole it.
Or they stole it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's Doom Patrol. Like, it is. It's not like it's, that giant.
No, it's more well-known now. It finally got a TV show. But
So, like, maybe they just didn't know. Who knows?
Yeah, no, fair enough.
And then you have Shatterstar and Starfire.
What's hilarious about this to me, sorry, and this is one of those rare three-prong mixes, because she gets the name Domino also. In a hilarious panel where she's rolling dice, and the panel acts like that's the explanation for the name Domino.
And it's weird because it's the only time it's ever stated. So it's like...
Yeah. So it doesn't even matter. It's like, oh, she was called... Look at this. Oh, crap. She was called Domino. And you're like, okay.
And
yeah. But she's rolling craps. I don't understand how you got to that. But all right. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so... I'm actually having to look at this list to even understand what some of these mixes were. Was that like Beast and Beast Boy?
Yes, because he wasn't Beast Boy at this point. He was Changeling.
Okay.
Which is an awful superhero name.
But
I didn't know that until I read Burn Superman. Oh, well, I guess it's technically in the Wolfman side of it, but they're traded together. But one of the early issues is a Teen Titans Superman crossover.
And then you had Pharaoh Lad, who was a character or Pharaoh Man, and there's a DC character named Pharaoh Lad, which I'm not familiar with, but he's mixed with Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe that was supposed to be Colossus, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I could tell it was Colossus. I wasn't sure who he was mixed with, because I don't know the Doom Patrol that well. But obviously I knew Elastigirl, and the one is, I think, mixed with Crazy Jane. The one that's got, like, multiple personalities.
Okay. And I started to perk up, and I've read only a few issues of Doom Patrol, and it's just been too long. So, like, the early Morrison stuff I've read I really liked, but I don't remember the characters that well.
Yeah, I started Morrison and really liked it, and I got to get back to it. But one day I will.
Yeah, and I kind of didn't want to watch any more of the TV show until I was a little bit more familiar with the material. Just because I was liking the material, okay? So at some point I'll finally do a stream watching that stuff or reviewing some of it, but I want to get more into the comics.
Yeah, that was the thing I had, was I didn't want to start the show until I read some of that.
But yeah, I started to perk up a little bit more when we actually get into the villain plot. And that's when you get into the fun, really ridiculous stuff where you go, well, the name's too good not to use. Like Dr. Doomsday. Okay, so you take Dr. Doom. He's still Master of Latveria. And he blends himself with alien DNA. And so presumably he got actual Doomsday, like something like Doomsday was out there, and then he makes himself kind of like indestructible, because the whole idea with Doomsday is that's an experiment that some alien race did, and now it's always Krypton. It didn't used to be Krypton, where they keep killing a thing over and over again, and it keeps getting resurrected to the point where nothing can kill it. So you have a Doctor Doom that has that. And so he's, super powerful. And we're told he's apparently best friends with Thanos.
Yeah, they just hang out.
So that's kind of
They
weird.
play craps together.
His villain plot is gnarly and makes no sense to me.
Where he wants to unamalgam characters and have an army of them to fight the amalgam characters.
Well, that's the thing, is they don't even talk about it as unamalgam. They talk about it like it's an alternate universe. And I'm like, but these universes came together to make this universe, so you couldn't go to those universes and take those characters. That's the way they talk about it. And that doesn't make any sense.
It's an Elseworld.
Because they were blurred together. So anyway,
It's the Elseworld of the Perez crossover, where they become one world.
Well, and if you even think about the multiverse side of all of this, your head explodes, right? Because
No, of course.
Because you took two universes, and sandwiched them together to make a blended Marvel DC thing that becomes Amalgam. What happened to all the other worlds in those two separate multiverses?
They just died.
They're just dead.
Dr. Doomsday looks like the Hobgoblin on this page.
Yeah,
orange.
Yeah, and that's actually cool. But the thing that makes me laugh the most about it is the bare legs.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. I love Dr. Doomsday. I just think it's hilarious.
No, that is pretty funny.
I'm very happy with Dr. Doomsday. That's the best thing in this issue.
Are you excited to see Legion of Evil Mutants?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, my eyes glaze over every time I hear Legion at all. And I don't think that got its own book, thank God.
Well, that's definitely the Legion of Doom over Legion.
Over Legion. Okay, good call. Well, then maybe that might be fun.
I mean, who knows? It could be both legions.
Sure, they just mix all the legions. Okay, so I'm glad that I saved this one for you, just because you're like the resident Man-Thing guy, and it's hilarious that I can say that. But are you surprised that of all the things they could have gone to, they gave this its own issue?
Yes. Well, okay, for the time. No, because I think while reading it, I was like, well, maybe not, but no. Because of the time, yeah. Like, Man-Thing hasn't had a run in, over a decade at this point.
I enjoyed this one okay.
I like the more gritty look to it. I like the art.
That was my thing, is just reading that, just to be a little bit superficial about it, reading this in the middle of everything else we were doing here, it stands out because we had to read so many team things and so much X-Men that a more gritty street level, kind of, horror monster thing, and also just like a kind of Gotham Central feeling, just Gotham Street book really jumps out, because we didn't get anything else like that. And I wanted to take this opportunity to make this point. Some of these, it felt really obvious which company was at the helm. You can tell which ones are Marvel books and which ones are DC books. Much of the time.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure how that was handled. I knew you'd probably know the history of it more, so I wasn't really sure if they had an editor from both kind of looking over it, or how it worked.
If memory serves, and I would have to go back and look, but if you look in the publication information, I think you can, well, I'm not sure. I was going to say, I think you can, it actually tells you which house published it. But I don't know if I'm right about that. But traditionally, when you do crossovers like this, it's done under one of the houses over the other one. And I think Amalgam did that all the way through. But regardless, even if there was an editor from both that looked at them, typically the tone of one company takes over the other one. And so this feels like a DC book. And to something you said real early on, where you said this is like one of your least favorite periods in comics. For me, it just depends on which company we're talking about, because I love early '90s DC, at least a lot of it, and that's a period where I felt like they were thriving and pushing envelopes, and Marvel was kind of falling apart. And then I think that flips when you get to the early 2000s, when you get into Marvel Knights. It's like they're having that early '90s period DC was having, and DC has turned into Marvel from the '90s.
For sure. So I didn't fully have that. I actually think it is a pretty good amalgam of like a Gotham Central and just Man Thing comics, where you kind of take the monster side of it and then you separate the more human stuff of Man Thing and then put in the Gotham Central cop stuff. So I thought like it kind of worked in combining these two ideas. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, the Gotham Central side of it is the more interesting side of the issue. I do think this is one that starts really strong and then kind of peters out as it goes along for me. Uh, but overall, it is, I would say, the second best issue.
I feel like there was much to the monster. Is kind of
Yeah,
my complaint, is that he just has enough of the original human personality that he's trying to take care of his family and people that care about his family, and
yeah,
that's kind of it.
yeah. And I mean, I could see this being an interesting monster on its own if it continued. So I guess in that way, with the super soldier thing, I think this is another good first issue, and that I could see this continuing and that being more interesting.
I agree, and it is a one-off story. It doesn't
Mhm.
feel like it's trying to do too much to catch you up, and
Yeah, I also really like the design of Bat Thing. I like that they incorporate the like trunks of Man Thing into the Man Bat design, where it just looks like he has a Fu Manchu mustache. I think it's very amusing.
yeah, that is funny. But it's kind of as opposed to some other stuff that we've seen, it's kind of a believable design where you can maybe arguably buy this as something somebody might have come up with on its own.
Yeah, probably more than most of the other characters in this amalgam stuff we've done tonight. I
Yeah.
could see this being a character that exists.
Now, did you know what any of the amalgams were with the Gotham characters? Because I didn't
I
right
did
off.
not, and for the longest time, I was like, "Oh, it's just Renee Montoya and Bullock," but Bullock's black because it can't exactly be the same. And then later on, he's got like a first name because they don't give you his first name for the longest time,
Okay, so I'm looking at
and I
this
didn't
on
recognize it.
Wiki, and unless Wiki just doesn't know,
Mhm.
they don't give you an amalgamation. They just have different first names. I
They
assume
were they were just amalgamed with everyday people in Marvel.
isn't that weird? But like you named Bullock Clark Bullock, and then Montoya is Christine Montoya, but the wiki just lists them as amalgam versions of Bullock and Montoya.
Well, because at first I was like, I wonder if it's maybe like a Jean DeWolf and Renee Montoya, but then I remembered it can't be because she's dead at this point, and they're paying attention to that stuff, which is why it can't be Man Thing and Swamp Thing because Swamp Thing's
Oh,
dead.
okay.
Yeah, I remember that's like one of the only things I remember from when we did the big crossover event stuff with this is you explained that to me.
Yeah, and I just forgot the Swamp Thing was dead right here, but he was dead for a really long time. Oh, we didn't bring him back until, and I don't know when we killed him, but if it was, if it was before this, we don't bring him back until New 52, so that's at least,
Mhm.
what, 20 years? 15 years?
Yeah, that is really crazy. He was sleeping in the green.
And then that turns into like Legion for me, where you keep saying the green, and my eyes just, I'm done. I don't care. But anyway, but this was a real straightforward, kind of no nonsense sort of story.
Yeah, my thing with it is it's like a Man Thing issue that's not great, but like it is in line with that. Like if you were to put it with the rest of those issues, like in the Gerber run or the Claremont run, it's on the lower end, but like it still feels like it's of that formula.
Well, I was going to ask you, is it enough of the same concept of Man Thing? Like, is this the same thing where it's where it's a creature that has his like imprint more than it's actually that character, or is it kind of ambiguous?
I would say it's much more of a man bet of the amalgam, but like
So you
with
think this is Kirk
powers.
Langstrom? Okay.
Yes. No, I think there's quite a bit more man bat to this character, but that's fine for what this is.
Well, and that's why I was asking you that, because that's kind of what I was getting from it too, and I thought that it was a little bit shoved in to have the burn at the touch things. Like, we got to get something more Man Thing in there.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't really have the emotion thing, so like it's weird that we still have the he who knows fear burns at the man thing's touch because it doesn't really have anything to do with why he has that, but it's whatever. It's not a big deal.
No, it should have just been like he who messes with Man Bat's family
Burns.
at the hand of Bat Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Oh, and the letters pages here are just Bat Thing. We didn't even try.
Then even yeah, what's like mail? The mail drop.
Mail.
And I like scanned through the names here, hoping that there would be a Gerber one, but there was not.
Ah, that's sad. Real quick, because I didn't know this, Bob the Hun said in all the promotional material with the Incredibles, she's referred to as Mrs. Incredible, and they were only allowed to call her Elastigirl in the movie.
You know what? Now that you say that, that sounds familiar.
Does that ring a bell?
That does ring a bell. I don't know. DC was on them.
So we just have a couple more here, yeah?
Yes, and
apologies.
like
this is taking
the
forever.
best is behind us.
Yeah, the best is behind us. This won't take too long. So I think
I say this being like maybe the third best.
Yeah, but just by definition, the best is behind us. Yeah, so the thing for me with Generation Hex is this didn't even feel like a team book because it's focused so much on their version of Hex that, or of Jonah Hex, that I wasn't even really thinking about the rest of them. Like, his team is kind of in the background, and he sort of just manipulates them for his own means, and it feels a lot more like a singular character piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my thing with this is I want it to either be a different amalgam, or to maybe lean into maybe some of the I don't know, like socialness of we don't let mutants into places. Like maybe go a little farther with that.
Oh, like the kind of segregation thing?
For the segregation thing, or
Yeah.
you could also do like a thing with like Native Americans because Jonah Hex is raised by Native Americans, so you could have done something with that too. The way it is, I just think it's just kind of uninteresting. That was what I had with it.
Yeah, I thought the dialogue writing was pretty good. Peter Milligan, I think, always turns in good work.
Sure.
So like it's well written. It's a solid plot. It's not super inspired or anything, but I kind of liked the idea of making this, I don't know, in a weird way, almost like a First Class Magneto or something, where it becomes a revenge thriller. And I wasn't really expecting that so much. So you have this town that's called Humanity, which is damn on the nose, right? And they don't like mutants there, so they call it Humanity. And this is in the Old West days, and they've called mutants something else. I can't remember.
It's like malforms or something.
That's
like
what
that.
it is. Yeah, malform, and then they'll become mutants later. And so their version of Jonah Hex comes in with his, I guess on his own. His team's kind of like behind him. He brings them in later, and he pretends like he is trying to like help them with those darn like terrible smelly mutants that are going to overrun their town. and he has this whole kind of clever plot where he has them pretend to be mutants, and then by the end, there's a robot that targets mutants and then kills them all. And
Yeah, we get
so,
Old West Sentinels.
yeah, and that's like a whole kind of like steampunk kind of thing, which was neat. But it plays like, or the idea is his team, his I almost said Hexmen. His Generation Hex team, he kind of manipulates them so that they come into the town and they don't do anything to these humans because they think they're mutants, and that gives the humans a false sense of security, and then they all leave, and then he sicks the robot on them, and that was kind of a fun, like passive aggressive move, I thought, for a revenge thriller. But the issue I had with it was, why didn't you just let your mutants kill them all? Like, what's the difference? Was it just kind of no fuss, no muss if you used the?
Well, they just needed to get those like they couldn't outrun the Sentinels, so it's.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
That was like the way of getting them off their back, was that they go after the city instead.
Okay, I guess I missed that they were actually supposed to be Sentinels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the only reason that I was like, oh, these are just the Sentinels, is the guy who makes them is Trask. It's
Oh, that's
like
right.
Marshall Trask.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I was not real sucked into this one except for that kind of clever reversal plot at the end. So that's all I was latching onto. So I couldn't remember why the robots were even there.
No, that's why this is, I think, the third best. Is I think the story is all right, and the overall writing's pretty good. But at the same time, like, this is just such a like, it really just comes off like, well, we amalgamated these because it rhymes, and like that's kind of it. Like, it's very uninspired in that way.
And they have too much X-Men.
Yes.
Like,
And I was like, I would just rather see them do like any other amalgam with Jonah Hex. It is cool that he got to be a part of this, but
yeah, I think so too. But I'm already kind of sick of the real standard pat,
here's our X team.
Racism social commentary. Because what new is it bringing to the table except for a personal vendetta plot? And like, that's fine, but you could come up with any other excuse to give him that. It wouldn't have to be an X-Men thing.
Yeah. No, it maybe would have been interesting, because like I said with the Native American thing, if you were going to do the X-Men route, is if he was just raised by mutants instead of natives, but he was still a normal person.
Yeah.
That maybe could have been interesting, I guess. I don't know.
Sure, maybe. Who else would you rather see him amalgamated with? Does anything like jump to mind on the Marvel side?
I mean, immediately
like any other Western characters?
The first one that came to mind was the original Ghost Rider, was Phantom Rider.
Oh, there you go.
Just you could have the title Phantom Hex.
Yeah, because that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, this is neither here nor there, but this just kind of came to me. Did we amalgamate anybody with Deadman?
Not that I know of.
I'm not even sure if he was. I wasn't sure if he was around right then, but but they're in the same universe, dude.
But it's not like that stopped us before.
That's true. So, like I said, that was neither here nor there, but just suddenly Deadman came to me. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't think we did anything with him.
They're the same universe, dude.
Oh, another thing that I thought was weird is there's a place, again, it might be a letters page, I can't remember, but there's a place where, do you remember this? Where Mephisto's Apocalypse came up, and I was like, well, we went to Apocalypse in a book. What does Mephisto have to do with Apocalypse?
He has his own Apocalypse.
Oh, spelled the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, exactly.
Oh, they did the same thing here. I just wouldn't even try. Generation X. Okay. Okay, so like I said, there was a previous JLX book. We're bringing back that version of Xavier that's a cross with Martian Manhunter of all people.
Oh. He was also a Skrull. He's Skrull Manhunter.
Oh yeah, it's another kind of triple thing.
Mm-hmm.
Austin
A lot
is
of triple threats.
Austin is now allergic to Amalgam in the same way that he was allergic to Just Imagine Stan Lee. Although this is more readable than that, just because it's not so long. Like those were just painfully sloggy.
Yeah, I mean,
I was thinking about them a little bit too, but they were 42 pages apiece.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
And they were way wordier, every one of them, than any of these.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, I made you read more of these, but only by 2, and those were 42 pages apiece.
Okay. Yeah, you won me over. Well, and that doesn't have anything as good as the Bullets and Bracelets one, so.
No, it doesn't. No, our favorite one there was the Superman one. We were still real lukewarm on it.
Yeah.
I think
that is true.
I think this Superman issue is probably on par with that, but a little better because guess what? It's not 42 pages. Anyway, take us through this one. I was kind of done by now, honestly, and like I went back and reread some of this, and it's still not sticking with me. I didn't love this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Some evil meanies, they summon Fin Fang Foom, who's Fin Fang Flame.
Yeah, who's he mixed with?
I wasn't sure offhand. Yeah,
we're gonna find that out. Brimstone.
Oh, okay.
But DC is Brimstone. Did you know DC had a Brimstone?
Maybe. Oh. That sounds familiar. But
okay, so I should know who this is because I've reviewed his first appearance, but I didn't remember him. Because he first shows up in Legends, which I talked about last year, I think. Not that long ago.
Event? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, the event? Yeah, we read that together, yeah.
He's in that.
See, I was like, the name's familiar, but I'm not placing it. Okay.
I couldn't remember if you talked about that with me or not.
Yes, yeah, we did talk about that. That was a ReQuest.
Oh, it was a ReQuest. That's right.
Yeah, so Fin Fang Flame, I guess, destroys New York and kills all the other JLA teams, who are the Judgment League of Avengers.
Oh my god, can we talk about the worst name of anything ever? Of all of the stupid stuff in this, with even like amalgamated characters with goofy ass names, that is the worst thing ever. It's legitimately painful to listen to. Like, the Judgment League Avengers. First of all, you have to have Justice League and Avengers in existence already before you would even think to put those two things together. And secondly, what regular people that need help getting rescued and stuff and want to look up to you as superheroes are going to trust you with the name Judgment in your super team name? No.
Well, they judge you while they judge your oppressors.
Judgment. And then, like, why is the word league sandwiched in the middle of it? League Avengers?
But it can be JLA Cap.
Yeah, no, I get why we did it. But you could have just called it, I don't know, like, even Justice League Avengers is better than changing. Why didn't we change it to Judgment? I mean, it still sounds stupid, but...
Well, I thought it was weird that I was like, oh, JLX is definitely supposed to be their JLI. But then in the same scene, they're like, oh, we already lost the Judgment League Avenger, or no, the Judgment League International and Judgment League West Coast.
Yeah, they have those.
So there is an international. Okay, I don't know then.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Well, let's never talk about this again.
Well, I can't tell you how much I hate it. I don't think I can begin to describe to you how much I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even as like fun dumb as some of this is, I can't get on board with that. Mm-hmm. This issue apparently, I missed it. This issue apparently has an appearance of a character named Mong Slot.
Oh, I missed that too.
Mongolan
Onslaught?
Onslaught? I'll take that over Judgment League Avengers.
Oof. Oof.
Mongslot. I'm so glad I said it while you were drinking, too. I lined that up.
Onslaught? I mean, his name is metaphorical.
For what?
For it strikes fear into the hearts of all whom hear it.
Mongslot. Where is he? Wait, was he just mentioned off page? There's no way we actually saw him, right?
He's maybe one of the villains at the beginning.
Maybe so. Because they had kind of their own, like, Legion of Doom there at the beginning.
Yeah, although
see,
the other
looks
two are
like
women.
him.
So, because you have Lord Maxwell and
Savage Shaw.
And then the other two are women, so it can't be there.
Yeah, no, apparently, because this is listed in the order they show up, Mongslot shows up immediately after our first appearance of Fing Fang Flames, so he's got to be after that. Where the hell is he? Is he in the background of this whole thing where they bring up the Armageddon agenda?
Maybe.
Is in that whole thing?
I guess.
Oh, did you catch the reference somewhere to the Secret Crisis?
Yeah, they mentioned Secret Crisis a couple times, like through the different issues.
Yeah. I just want to bring that up to prove to everybody that I actually read this material.
the comics.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you find it weird that it's just Shield and just Dum Dum Dugan?
Yeah. I'm sure this is going to say it's their version of that guy, right? Well, actually, I thought maybe this wasn't even his first appearance, but apparently it is, looking at the wiki list. But yeah, it just says Amalgam version of Dum Dum Dugan. He's not mixed with anybody. He's just there.
I mean, the man who successfully punched out Godzilla wouldn't need to be amalgamed with anyone. He'd be too powerful.
He's just hanging out with Bruce Wayne, agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're best buds.
Okay.
But yeah, we unite the team and then they kill Fin Fang Flame.
Yeah, and then now they have a new JLX team, and that's it. And they have their version of Xavier is the kind of 90s version that's very morally ambiguous, and I didn't get much else out of it, honestly.
The only thing I got out of it is that I really hope the MCU X-Men has Professor X like this, where he just flies around the bad guy in his rocket chair.
I'm still trying to figure out who Rogue is mixed with. My guess is she appears in an issue before this. Maybe she's in the first JLX and I don't remember it. I'll scroll up and see if I can find her.
Yeah, because like I said, initially I wondered if it was Black Canary, but I don't think that's
just with that jacket.
Yeah, and I was like, and with this team, like I think she's a part of the JLI, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, the first JLX had a canary. That was this is actually a pretty smart mix. It was Black Canary and Mockingbird.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's a good idea.
Kando says Starfire. No, Starfire's mixed with Shatterstar, just so that we can call them.
Okay, but that doesn't preclude the possibility of her also being mixed with another character.
That is true.
We do that crap lots of times. We've given out 5 examples of it.
Here, let's see. I will also look up Amalgam Rogue.
Oh my god, they did Professor Kang. They mixed Reverse Flash and Kang the Conqueror, called it Professor Kang.
Okay.
That's a choice, folks.
They were running out of characters at that point.
And they did... Well, this isn't the first set. This is right before Darkclaw.
Oh, that's right. Her name's Runaway.
Runaway, yeah.
She is Amalgam of Rogue and Gypsy.
Oh, Gypsy, okay. I don't know who that is.
Cynthia Reynolds.
I'm glad we spent a lot of time on this.
She's a Birds of Prey member. You should know who she is, Cap.
Oh, damn it. I'm a fake fan, folks. I'm going to spend all my time over the next month doing nothing but reading Birds of Prey so that people don't think I'm a fake Birds of Prey fan.
You should just be like a kid who does a book report and watch the movie and just say you read it.
That's my entire career, though.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm
But
kidding.
it really works with Birds of Prey. That I can tell you.
I do cram for the test sometimes, though. You know, like we'll do one of these. We'll talk extensively for 2 hours about a thing. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., I won't remember anything from the thing that we read.
See, I feel like
I couldn't do this video again tomorrow night.
I feel like I'm gonna wake up in the middle of the night in like a deep sweat and scream out Runaway or one of these other fantastic characters. Skrull Hunter, Professor X.
No, you're gonna scream out like Magneto and his metal men.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's what you're gonna scream out. Magneto!
Charles.
I missed this too. Apparently they did Wonder Gold. They're not even trying with that name.
I was waiting for one of these characters. There's like the two brothers that are in blue and yellow, and I was like, okay, one of these are Booster Gold, right?
Yeah,
and
it is. They did Wonder Man and Booster Gold, which also seems kind of random. I mean, I guess they're both like arrogant hotshots.
Yeah,
I guess they have that.
that is true.
But Wonder Gold? Surely we could sit here for 5 seconds and come up with a better name than that.
They should have called him Booster Man.
Booster Man.
Okay, in our modern amalgam, that's what it should be. And his power is he's just taken so many vaccine boosters that he has superpowers.
So like this isn't a great name or anything, but I feel like even like Golden Wonder is better than Wonder Gold. Like what does it even mean? Wonder Gold?
It sounds it sounds like a type of bread.
All right, well,
that's just how we're ending it. Okay, good night, everybody.
That's about gonna do it, right? So we've got 7 more of these that we haven't done yet, and I'll pull those up and read you which ones we've got to do. And I'll just make this one of my picks some week for the vault, Austin.
Oh, okay.
I'll take it for the team.
You'll take that Kansas load for the team.
So we've got the other Super Soldier book, which is a Super Soldier Man of War, and then Challengers of the Fantastic, Exciting X Patrol. We're gonna do Iron Lantern. And then we have Magnetic Men featuring Magneto.
I mean, at least we're moving away from the X-Men stuff. Like I'm kind of glad to be away from that.
It looks like 2 of our 8 will be more X-Men, and then Spider-Boy team up, and then Thorian and the New Gods. So that could be good because we like the New God stuff.
Yeah, that is true. Hopefully, Ostrander writes that one.
Did you feel like it was a little bit odd? I mean, it is the obvious thing to do because of the Jack Kirby of it all. But it seemed a little odd to me in this amalgamated universe that you would take the New Gods and blend it with existing real Norse mythology. That's odd to me.
So...
where you'd have Odin the Highfather.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, but at the same time, like, you have the Highfather and then the Allfather. Like, it makes sense to combine them.
What else would you mix it with?
And
because those are the obvious analogs. So
yeah, and New Gods was supposed to spin off of Thor, so like
okay, fair enough.
So like I guess that makes sense, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it is just kind of weird because that's stuff that exists in like real mythology.
Let's make mythology amalgam. Who are we amalgaming with Jesus?
From the DC or the Marvel universe? Well, I feel like that has to be a 3-pronged one, right? Where you take a DC and I mean, it'd have to be like Superman and I don't know, Sentry.
Howard the Duck. Howard the Jesus.
Jesus the Duck.
Or Howard the Christ.
Jesus the Duck is way better.
Well, that can be another character. Just because we use Jesus in one place doesn't mean that Jesus can't be used in another place.
Well, and I feel like being the triune god, perhaps he should be the one that winds up getting split off even 3 different times.
Oh, even thrice, even. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Jesus Hex.
we've we've talked about this for a whole 2 hours. I think we spent more time on this than we did the 2 miniseries before.
Oh no.
So apologies for the length, but I had fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
As always. Like I said, we didn't talk about, for the most part, the best of this stuff that I've read, except for Bullets and Bracelets, which is surprising, because that was one that I was like, that sounds weird.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, Wonder Woman and Punisher. Like, that's a strange mix.
That's a
but
choice.
It paid off. It paid off, Cotton.
Austin, next week, we're reviewing a classic film.
Oh, Son of the Mask?
No, John Matthew McClane has asked us to watch and talk about Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, okay.
A classic.
I know nothing about Smokey and the Bandit, so...
What, early 80s film, late 70s? Smokey and the Bandit.
I think it's something like that. Like
70s,
70s?
Right? I saw that when I was a kid, but I have not seen it in a very long time.
I just imagine it being Smokey the Bear and some form of bandit. Maybe amalgamed even.
I was going to say, but just because they use the bandit there doesn't mean that he can't show up and mixed with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly.
Well, I am kind of excited that we are only 7 books away from having talked about every single amalgam thing.
That is crazy.
We will finally have it all complete. Apologies that it's taken this long, but we'll finally have it all. You know what, though? I don't feel as bad about going for 2 hours because we were, honestly, at the end of the day, as thorough or more thorough than I would have been in individual issues. So I feel like I really gave it its due. Like, if I'm not going to do this, but if we took this and split it into individual videos, they'd be the length or longer of the vaults I was doing before. So I don't know. I feel good about that. We gave it its due.
Yeah, definitely. So when we do the Amalgam Cinematic Universe, do you hope that we do like each movie releases one movie like for 1 month of the year, and we do 24 Amalgam movies in 1 year, and that's the Amalgam year? So we have like a full cinematic universe of Amalgam.
Well, that sounds like a lot. Why would we do it like that? What possesses you?
Because then the next year they separate again. That's where you do like they're done now.
I feel like I'm missing something. I don't understand why it's 24 in a year.
Because we need like a full phase 1 to 3 MCU level Amalgam cinematic universe.
Oh my god.
And because every character needs a movie and possibly a sequel, just like the issues here.
So it's funny this hasn't come up yet. We did talk about this, I think the last time we brought up Amalgam, but the thing I never thought would happen is happening. It is getting traded finally, and that's supposed to happen really soon. I think, what is it, next month or the month after? Sometime this year, they're supposed to trade these, and I need to look into that because I don't know how exactly they're doing it. Like with the one shots, I don't know how those are being traded, but now that legally that's, you know, they're able to put that out, I'm wondering if we'll ever see any other merchandise or anything for Amalgam again. Because in all seriousness, the one thing I would like to have from this is maybe some action figures. I think it would be cool to finally get like some of the bigger characters in figure form, and I would buy a couple of them just for the sake of nostalgia. Like I would get a Dark Claw, and maybe a Super Soldier and Amazon and some of the big ones. I think it would be cool to finally have that.
Well, I feel like at some point we will have another Marvel DC comic event, and I think we've all just accepted that this will happen in the movies at some point.
Well, there was a time where I thought it was impossible, and now I feel like it's almost inevitable.
Hmm. Exactly. Even because they just had the Deadpool and Wolverine premiere, somebody asked Feige about it, and like he had like a very like, it can happen
Yeah. I feel like 10
answer.
years ago he would have been like, why would we even do that?
Hmm.
What would be the point? I feel like he'd be a little bit more above it all, where it's like, no, we're fine by ourselves. Now that answer's gotta be in the back of your mind. Well, that's a way to keep it going. You know, that's especially because the things that are making them the most money right now are the big nostalgia grab, like callback things. What's gonna be left after you've done, like the Spider-Man movies and the X-Men movies and the Fox stuff? Like, if you want to do more cameo parade, that's how you do it. Is you start putting the two universes together.
You know that you're really excited, Cap, to see the cinematic moment where Hugh Jackman walks in and he's like, "What the hell are you supposed to be, bub?" And then Keaton walks in and goes, "I'm Batman."
No, you got the line wrong. He comes out and he goes, "Did you just call me Batman?"
And Wolverine's like, "What?"
No, I called you Bob, you idiot.
He goes, "What? This isn't supposed to be a cage match. You made a mistake."
Yeah, no, I feel like some kind of cross eventually is probably inevitable at this point. If not in the movies, at least in comics. I actually think that could happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, neither of those houses is really making a lot of money. It seems like they're kind of breaking even or worse much of the time. It's been a while since I've looked
the
deep
head of
into
the comics now too.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've looked deep into sales figures, but that feels like an afterthought for both companies these days.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're not wrong. Well, now it's just sad.
Well, that was depressing. Good night, everybody.
See you, everybody. We really should have ended on that bread bit.
We should have. That's true. Well, thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again next week with a movie review. We'll do something totally different, Smokey the Bandit, but we will try to do a vault. I've got a busy week next week, so I don't know if it'll be next week, but hopefully I can work it in. But we're going to try to do more comic reviews like we have been doing lately. And I'll just announce real quick, my next pick is we're gonna go back to 90s DC, which I'm sure will really excite Austin. But we're gonna review Funeral for a Friend, yeah, because I did the Death of Superman proper like years and years ago with Dan, and I've never gone back and talked about the rest of it. And Funeral for a Friend is pretty easy to jump back in and just review that section. So we're gonna do that in the not too distant future.
This is how I learned that Funeral for a Friend is not one issue.
Yeah. No, it's 8 plus an epilogue.
Yeah, and I don't know how that's going to work. I'm really interested to see.
Yeah, I don't know how you land on it. You might be bored to tears, or you might be kind of surprised by the, social stuff and the world building and all that. But
I hope it's just like
I still like it.
8 hours in real time. There's not 8 hours, 8 issues in real time of just them sitting through a funeral and then like awkwardly eating like really crappy sandwiches in like the after reception.
No, I'll tell you, it's 2 or 3 issues before you even get to the funeral. There's a lot of lead up to it.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
It's a lot of like who's even allowed to go, and here's how different people are being affected in different ways by Superman's death, and it focuses quite a bit on like the Kents and the fact that nobody knows that they're Superman's parents and they can't even go to the funeral, and I don't know, I like that we spent time with all that stuff.
No, that sounds good. I'm interested to see it.
Well, anyway, once again, appreciate you guys. We'll see you again next week. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin the Day Ghost.
See you, everybody.